You are tuned in to the Week in Review, presented by the Prosper Group, where the right turns to win online.
Join us each week as we take a look at what is happening in digital advocacy and politics with a right of center focus. You're listening to the Prosper Group Week in Review podcast. I'm Dan Huber with Caroline Alexander. Caroline, what do we have planned for today?
Today, we have special guest Katy Abram. She's a senior account manager here at the Prosper Group. And today, with her, we'll be discussing the relationship between campaigns in-house digital and then the digital agency. So it's a very important relationship. We're going to dive deep and have her answer some questions. And then at the end, we're going to have their digital action item. It'll be part digital and also part campaign in the field.
Sounds good. Let's get started. We've been talking for a couple weeks about Senator Joe Manchin. He's down 78% this week. So I think we're probably going to stop talking about him in the near future unless that pops up again, which, given the state of affairs and where he and Senator Sinema sit in the whole Democratic picture on the Senate side, that may pop up again. And similarly, conversation about filibusters down 67% this week. And that too is something that, given the current nature of the Senate, could increase in no time, just depending on what the focus of the leadership in the Senate is. We've also been looking at gas prices. And for the week ending June 28th, we hit a 7-year high in gas prices, up to $3.09 and 1/10 of a cent per gallon in the United States. But the overall conversation in Twitter's down 44% this week, about 47,000 tweets overall. And I attribute most of that just to the White House has kind of stepped out of the conversation. I think they felt positive last week when it went down slightly, but as it's going up, they haven't engaged in that conversation again. And I'm not sure that it does a whole heck of a lot positive for the administration to do that. So again, we're going to continue to watch that conversation throughout the summer as prices fluctuate. But going into the 4th of July, this is probably going to be a conversation that we're going to see at least in the next week, but we'll be tracking for a while now. And then the next topic that we've been following and really relevant today, we're recording Thursday morning, and as we're speaking, the final court decisions, court cases of the week or of the term actually are being released while we're online right now. And I looked just before we started. Overall, the conversation around the Supreme Court is down 14% this week to 428,000. My hunch, though, is that as we post this video, that's going to be up, and I wouldn't be shocked if in the end it actually ends up pushing above last week's totals. But we look at kind of a rolling week, and right now it's down 14% for the week. We did see a little spike in the conversation with bleed over from the Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruling that overturned Bill Cosby's conviction. And obviously that's getting a lot of play in Twitter and online. And the conversation right now, probably going to focus a lot on the Arizona case, Branovich versus the Democratic National Convention. I may have said that wrong. If I did, please excuse me, but it's a little tongue twisty for me, so I wasn't able to get that. But it focuses on voting rights, which is very much in the conversation politically right now. And then the other topic that we've been following really kind of off and on, but we're back on it this week, and there's good reason for that, is the border crisis. That conversation's up 85% this week. We saw about 111,000 tweets. 2 major events over the past week related to that. One is that Vice President Harris visited a border station last Friday. And then just yesterday on Wednesday, President Trump and Texas Governor Abbott visited the border wall And so, that's driving a lot of the conversation right now related to the border crisis. And we'll continue to watch that. But that's really our coverage for this week related to the social listening. Anybody who doesn't receive the AM Rundown, they can go online and sign up at prospergroupcorp.com/AM Rundown.
Thanks, Dan. So for those of you who don't know Katy Abram, let me introduce her. She's a senior account manager at the Prosper Group. And all I can really say is she's incredible. Whenever I have questions about digital, she is always the first person I reach out to. She's grown to be a great friend and mentor to me, so I was so excited to sit down and talk with her. And Dan and I caught up with her after last week's blog post about what does a digital director do. And next week, we'll have the entire interview with Katy, so you all can hear that. But now we're just going to share some key insights with you. So I hope you enjoy. What do you think the right balance is between in-house digital and then the outsourced digital company? How do you strike that balance?
Ultimately, it comes down to communication and trust. You need to tell your vendor like what you need, and your vendor definitely should do the same. I think the digital director, sometimes digital directors haven't done a lot in digital. That's not to be a slight on anybody, but sometimes they're not as immersed in it as, possibly a digital vendor would be. So I would suggest for any digital director, try and learn as much as you possibly can from your vendor. They're a wealth of knowledge. I mean, even being an account manager myself, working on huge campaigns, I am always learning something new. And things are rapidly changing day by day, week by week. So from one cycle to the next, things are totally different. Like this past election cycle, we saw for campaigns that Facebook and Google weren't running any ads right after the election. So we had to come up with, okay, how are we going to manage all the things that are happening right now? We had the issues that happened at the Capitol, and, we wanted to be able to fundraise and how we navigated all of that. So those are really prime opportunities actually to be able to learn some things from the vendor. Now, when it comes to just, being more balanced, again, I go back to like setting expectations, and you should set up whatever boundaries you need, but then also try and learn things try and learn other things from your vendor, because like if you have a website and you need to put up press releases, for example, sometimes, you may reach out to your vendor and that person may be in a meeting and they can't get it up like right away. So ask your vendor, hey, can I learn how to, post news releases on our website? What else can I learn so that I have autonomy as a digital director and I can move on the fly if you are not available, or if it's 12 o'clock at night and they're on the other coast? There are those situations. So I think those kinds of things are super helpful to have that balance. And then when your vendor is around, then they'll be able to pick up that slack as well. But ultimately, like every dollar you spend on a retainer is like super precious and should be used more towards that higher level digital work, as opposed to, posting a tweet, unless that's part of your, what the contract is with your vendor and the expectations.
A big thank you to Katy for taking some time to share with our audience. This is some important information, so I hope you all enjoyed it. Please listen in next week for our full interview with Katy. Now let's turn the page to our digital action item. Last week, the action item was to plan for your 4th of July digitally, so I hope you all had that done. And also, I hope you all enjoy your holiday weekend. But this week, we want to focus on signing up email subscribers. We're going to do this old school now. Go in your community while you're there at your 4th of July events, while you're there campaigning in the field, ask for those email signups. This is a great way, a free way to take advantage of the local engagement and get people involved. And a little quick pro tip, have your staff write the first couple lines of a sign-up sheet, because no one wants to feel like the first email address on a sheet. Get people involved, do that. And then afterwards, make sure you send them a welcome message, make sure they feel involved in the emails, add them to your house file, and then set them aside to treat them a little differently since you know they want to be involved in your campaign. And then continue to repeat at all the events you attend.
I love bridging the gap between digital and field. I think field staff can always be looking for volunteers at the same time as they're doing those signups, but I think too often we think of field and digital as separate, but we always talk about how digital campaigning is campaigning. So the more we bring that together, that's really important. Signups are a great way to get more out of campaign events and incorporate volunteers, both from a recruitment standpoint as well as an opportunity to get your volunteers involved while you're out in the community, so they can be part of the recruitment as well. Real quick update before we wrap it up today. So while Caroline was sharing that with you, I took a quick look, and we did have the Supreme Court rulings released. The DNC's challenge to the Arizona state laws from a voting rights standpoint were upheld by the court, so a win for states' rights there. And again, we're seeing the Supreme Court conversation continue to grow. Right now, it says that week to week, the growth is down, or week to week, we're down 10% in Twitter with about 438,000 tweets, but we will continue to see some growth and some positive results from that. So anyhow, that's going to wrap up our episode for this week. Again, a big thank you to Katy Abram. Next week, we will replace our normal format. We'll share the full interview with Katy. Thank you for listening. Have a great week.
You can find our Prosper Group Weekend Review podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts.
If you like the show, please subscribe and share.